My name is Yvette Francine Taylor Lewis. I am the oldest daughter of Donald and Jean Taylor. I have one sister, Darnell. I am a descendant of 4 generations of proud African American women who lived in an area of Alexandria called Cross Canal. Two of my ancestors are depicted on the African American Heritage Trail, and I will call and speak their names. Emily Lomax and Virginia Napper. Those are the two ancestors that are on the African American Trail. Emily Lomax was a slave, and she was born in Caroline County, Virginia. She escaped slavery and ran to Virginia. And so I have 7 relatives buried at the Freedmen Cemetery. My grandmother, Virginia Napper, Emma Thomas, and Dorothy Taylor were individuals that I had the rare opportunity to know. I remember going to my great-great-great-grandmother's home. We called her Mother Dear, and that was her home across canal. And I remember her apricot trees and her peach trees. My great-grandmother, Virginia Napper, was a great cook, and she used to have cooking lessons for me as well as my cousins. We would have to come to her house once a month, and she would teach us to cook. And I know that's where I get my love for cooking today. And my grandmother, Dorothy Napper, was just so wise. She was very adamant about passing stories down about her grandmother and her mother. And those stories stayed with our family today. Her grandmother was Emma Thomas, and Emma Thomas, who we call Mother Dear. Her husband, Walter Thomas, fought in the Spanish-American War, and he was one of the Rough Riders. And so the two of them are buried at Arlington National Cemetery. I am also a descendant of John Parker. And John Parker and the Dogan family are related to my family through my grandfather, Charles Taylor. His name is, Parker Gray bears his name, as well as the stadium at T.C. Williams, the Parker Gray Stadium. So John Parker was a pioneer educator. He taught many Black boys how to read when it wasn't lawful to do that. And he was the principal of the all-boys school in Alexandria called the Snowden School. Sarah Gray was principal of the all-girls school. And so their two names combined made up Parker Gray. And to find that I am related to him was it was a proud moment for me because I am an educator, and I thought I was the first in my family to become an educator and a principal, and to find out that I was standing on his shoulders the entire time was extremely grateful and heartwarming for me. I am also a descendant of Rozier Taylor. Rozier Taylor was my grandfather's father. He was one of the founding members of the Elks Lodge. Back in the day, the Elks Lodge was the only entertainment that a lot of Black people had in Alexandria. And to find out that Rozier Taylor was an influential member and founder of that organization, and was able to have a lot of people come to Alexandria who maybe people here had heard of but never seen, such as Ike and Tina Turner, Ray Charles, Fats Domino, Little Richard. They came to the Elks home. My dad has told us many stories of that happening. And speaking of my dad, he, as well as his two brothers, my Uncle Alvin and my Uncle John, they have all been exalted rulers at the Elks home. And not just the men, there were women who were leaders in the Elks as well. My grandmother, Dorothy Napper Taylor, her daughter, my aunts, my cousins, even some of my cousins' children are members of that organization today. So that is a big piece of who I am and whose shoulders I stand on. I was born in Alexandria, of course. I am from the south side of Alexandria. I remember that our family was the first Black family to move on South Payne Street. And after moving there, I remember waking up one morning to my dad and my mom telling me I had to clean up trash on our front lawn because our lawn had been trashed. That went on for a number of weeks. One morning in particular, I remember there was a dead cat that was even placed in our lawn. But my parents gave me the wherewithal to confront situations like that. And because they gave me that wherewithal, I've carried that throughout my career. I attended St. Joseph's Catholic School and church before going to Alexandria City Public Schools. I went to Robert E. Lee, which is now Nanny J. Lee. I went to John Adams. I went to Minnie Howard, and I went to TC. TC is where I kind of blossomed. And while at TC, I was on the drill team. I was one of only two Black girls that made the junior varsity cheerleading squad. Miss Barbara Finney was our sponsor. And I was one of the only Blacks elected to the SCA during my junior year. That was an important, pivotal piece of my life because it was during the time of the reorganization and consolidation of GW, Hammond, and TC. I remember that summer, the leadership team from GW, Hammond, and TC, we all had to gather together to kind of strategize and come up with a plan as to how we were going to incorporate the colors because we each had school colors. You may think that was an easy thing to do, but we were rivals during that time. And I remember that just was a challenge, but we got it done. And so I remember GW's colors were blue, Hammond chose white, and TC red. And now I heard that they've gotten rid of those colors, and now their one color is red, which I absolutely love because red is one of my favorite colors. So I am happy I had a piece in at least choosing the colors for that. And what made me want to run, I will tell you, Judy Belk is, during the time I was in school, Judy Belk and MacArthur Myers, they were involved. And we were at TC before a lot of integration, so there weren't that many Blacks at TC, but the two of them were kind of the social activists, if you will. She was graduating in that year, and she wanted someone else to take her place. And so she came to me and she asked me, and I've had a conversation with her recently where I asked her, why did you ask me? I mean, I knew her, but I didn't know her that well. And she said she saw something in me that she felt she just wanted to portray, and she helped me campaign. She helped me with my speech, and I won. So that is how I was elected to the SCA at TC. After TC, I graduated and went to Norfolk State, where I was elected homecoming queen. My picture was in the Ebony magazine. That was kind of a big deal because Ebony would have a issue every year where they highlight all the homecoming queens for the HBCUs. And so I was in that issue representing Alexandria. I graduated with a degree in speech pathology and audiology. I earned a scholarship to Tennessee State, where I continued to study in that field. Began a career as an elementary speech pathologist in Fairfax County. After a while, I went back to school and I got a master's degree from Virginia Tech. And I retired as a sub-school principal in Fairfax County after 34 years. I came to work in Alexandria, can you believe it, after that. And I worked part-time as a compliance specialist. And I think they hired 3 people during that time. It was one person who worked at TC for high school. I had middle school, so I worked at GW in Hammond. And then there was someone who worked in the elementary, at the elementary level. Then I went to work in Arlington, and I subbed there as an assistant principal. And after Arlington, I kind of stopped. But I would like to say that my family, after thinking about my achievements, my family has just been supportive. I would not have been able to achieve the things that I achieved without my family, my husband, Herbert Lewis, my 2 children, Brian, Erica, and Danye, my niece, my grandchildren, Kari, Bryson, and Jalen. They keep me grounded. They keep me authentic, and they keep me true to who I am. So I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful to my family, who is a very close-knit family in Alexandria. 406 is the hub of our family, and we were all pretty much raised and went through that house. So I am just privileged to be able to give homage to all of those people who have made me who I am, because I would not be here without them. You know, my dad's brother moved on Payne Street not long after we were there, and I was like 2 blocks away. My grandmother and my grandmother on my dad's side and my grandmother on my mother's side lived within 2 blocks of one another. So my entire family, my mom had, 9 brothers and sisters. My dad had 2 brothers and 1 sister. I could walk from household to household. But the community in Alexandria was that everybody knew everybody's family. They could call you out at any time, if you were doing something that was inappropriate. You would hear about it before you got home. And just a loving caring community. So, yes, that piece was true. Because, yes, and that's interesting because you don't think about segregation and not having access to certain things. I don't, I remember having access to a lot of things. I didn't know a lot about integration and extreme racism, even though I was at TC and those schools and there weren't that many blacks. I never experienced racism, like with somebody in my face. But you see the Titan movie because I lived that. It was more rivalry between the schools. And I had a very good experience growing up in Alexandria. I think it's a great place to raise your children. I'm a living witness. So so yes, that was important.